Wander Wealthy Podcast, episode 72. Hello, my friends. Welcome back, or just a pure hello and welcome to the Wander Wealthy Podcast. My name is Tess Wicks. I am your host, and today I'm hitting you with another solo show. If you've been listening, then you know that this past couple months have been pretty crazy for me. I've been traveling a lot. My schedule has been all over the place, getting mixed up between Central European time and Central American time. I don't even know what it's called. Central Standard Time. Why is that standard? I don't understand. Anyway, it's been crazy. So the guest I was going to have this week, we had to reschedule, and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to leave you high and dry. I'm going to get on the mic, start recording, and share with you something that I am really excited about. And no, it's not like a special announcement. It's just like what I'm going to be doing with my life. And if you read the title of this podcast, then you have an idea of what I'm talking about. So I'm going to be sharing something that's not entirely about money today. I'm stoked because this podcast, I really want it to become more of a holistic kind of lifestyle podcast, but still very much heavily talking about money, because I think money is so easily neglected in our lives, especially in our lives as women trying to negotiate or learn about investing or talk to our partner about money. And there's not a lot of information out there that is geared and marketed towards us. We are heavily marketed to as far as spending money, but not necessarily how we can make better, savvier financial decisions with money. With that, I also think it's important to talk about some of the other parts of life that we don't hear so much about in other areas, I guess. And that's personal development and career. And, we could dabble in travel if that's something you're interested in. But today, I wanted to kind of get on the personal development lifestyle path and share with you guys how I'm planning on getting my life on track during this fall. I feel like fall is such a good season to reset. People always think like, oh, New Year's resolution, setting new goals, new year, new me. But for me, it's totally fall. And maybe that's just because I am still like in that school going mindset, even though I'm not in school technically anymore, where you have semesters and you have the summers off. But I still am in the mindset of like, oh, fall is the start of a new year. And I don't know why. I just like it. I also love fall. I think when it starts getting cold outside, you can have more time to start focusing on the inside parts of you and start thinking about your mind, what's good for your mind, your body, your soul. And that's why I think it's a perfect time to start looking at, okay, how am I going to get my shit together and get my life back on track? So for me, I feel like my life has just kind of been in chaos, and maybe you guys have been too, because it's the end of summer, and summer is the time of just going out and doing what you want. And if you live in the Midwest, which is where I'm from, it's always like the only time where you really get to go out and enjoy the outdoors and rooftop barbecues and drinks with friends outside, dining al fresco, you know what I'm saying? And so once it starts to get cooler out, then you realize how unproductive you've been, and you also realize how you need to just get inside and start getting work done, or start, working on yourself, whatever that means. So I'm going to share, I have 4 things that I'm really planning on doing, and they kind of break down into mini things on how I'm going to be rerouting my life once all of my travel cools down. Once that's all done, once we're heading into the month of October, my life is going to be following this path very closely. However, with that said, I've already started some of these things, so let's just dive into it. The first thing that I'm really taking to heart, and I'm starting to do already, is simplifying my morning routine to make it the easiest win as possible, and to be able to start implementing new habits. So committing to 21 days of new habit implementation. So let me break this down. I am a sucker for watching people's morning routines on YouTube or listening to them through podcasts, and then making this long list of things that I should be doing for morning routines. Like, seriously, I had this habit tracker in my bullet journal for the past handful of months. I haven't been doing it recently because it's this huge long list of things that I want to do that I need to track, but it's so long, it's almost hard to keep up. So my boyfriend has been, getting into Tim Ferriss and some other folks, and he's been reading, and he's kind of come to me and said, let's start doing some of these things, building habits, doing some things in the morning, but let's start doing just a couple at a time. And I was like, brilliant. I love that idea, because having all these expectations of needing to do these 9 or 10 things in the morning is just ridiculous. So we're really starting out with 4 main things. They're both a mix of things we're doing in the morning, so part of a morning routine, but also just other habits that we're living by. And we're going to be doing them for 21 days. And then once we get to the end of that 21 days, we kind of re-look at what's been going on and say, okay, now do we want to add to this or change things up? And that's where we can add a couple more things that we, want to start implementing as habits as well. But until then, we don't worry about anything other than the 4 things that we're focusing on. So what are those 4 things? For us, it is to meditate for 5 to 10 minutes in the morning. So he goes into his respective room, I go into mine, and we sit down with our own chosen meditation apps, or, whatever way. If you wanted to join in, you can do it whichever way you want, whether it's in complete silence, listening to soft music. I use an app called Rituals. It's technically a makeup app. Like, it's a makeup company, I think, but they have this meditation section, and I really love it because they have 3 different options, and each option has a 5, 10, 15, and 20-minute meditation. So good variety for me, and I just find it really peaceful. He uses Headspace. I think he's really liking that. He just finished with the 10-day trial, and he's going to continue with that. So that's what he's using. I'm using this Rituals app, which is free, and we're kicking that into gear. So every morning we wake up, we separate, we do our meditation, and then we reconvene into the second one, which is to make the bed. So this is something that I hear all the time. People are always talking about it. If you're listening to like other podcasts, especially Tim Ferriss, he's like a big one behind making your bed. This is just something that is such a quick win for us, and it already gives us this sense of accomplishment right at the beginning of the day. And I think that's really important because we tend to operate on motivation. I've been having a lot of trouble recently because I go to school every morning. So every morning I go to school, and when I get done with school, I come back home to start working in my full-time job. And I'm so demotivated because I just kind of reflect, and although it's not a waste of time, it's a perfectly good investment of my time. I mean, for God's sake, I'm living in Italy. I need to learn Italian. But I get home at about 11 a.m. and I just get so, down on myself because I'm thinking, oh, I just wasted so many hours going to school and commuting, and those could have been hours that I could have been working. And it's really weird, but almost just getting up and doing this one thing that's really small and really doesn't even have any impact on my work gives me that jolt of accomplishment that then I go to school and then I come back and I'm still like kind of running on that momentum of having accomplished things. So making the bed has become really important to me. And that's something that we kind of do together, or maybe one of us will do it while the other one goes and empties the dishwasher. So this gets into a habit, but it's something we do all day long. And it's a rule that we are now starting to have in our house because it's funny the way our minds work. So I'm going to explain it after I tell you what it is that we're doing. And that is that we have this rule of not leaving any dishes in or around the sink. So if we cook a meal, if we even just eat cereal, if we're in a hurry, it doesn't matter. You have to rinse out the dish and put it in the dishwasher, or you have to hand wash the dish. Because for me, and I've noticed this a lot with my space, especially even just like my bedroom or my bathroom, if there's a mess, I will continue to allow there to be a mess because there won't be any motivation to keep it clean because it's almost like, oh, well, it's already messy, so who cares? And I think we can get into this a lot, not just in the clutter in our home, but in our financial situation. If it's already a mess, we feel demotivated to go and fix it. So that's why it's so important to kind of have these rules in place to continually keep, for lack of a better term, keep the dishes out of the sink. keep your finances clean, keep your budget in check every single day or every single week so that it doesn't get all messed up, a couple weeks in because you haven't been regularly keeping it clean, that then you just throw up your hands and go, well, there's no use in keeping it now. And that's something that I think it's totally a brain thing. Like, it's totally something we just convince ourselves is okay because our brain sees the mess and it's harder for us to think about all the time we're going to spend and the effort we're going to have to put in to clean it up. So we just keep letting it be a mess. So this is something that it's almost like a trigger for all these other aspects of our life, which is just the plain and simple rule that we do not keep dishes in or around the sink. We always have to put them into the dishwasher or clean them so that there's not just a mess that we can continue to pile on. And that has been then translated to other areas of our home as well as other areas of our life. You can even, think about this in terms of your fitness and health. If you let it go, one day and you don't get back on track, then you're going to just keep kind of letting it go and keep piling on the mess. So if you're trying to follow a diet and you slip up one day, that's okay. Clean it up. Get that bowl out of the sink, put it away. The other day I left a spoon in the sink and I felt so bad. And my boyfriend was like, no, it's just that if we see it in the sink, we get it out. So if you forget, if you mess up, if you slip up, that's fine. Don't blame each other. Don't blame yourself. Just get it out, pick up where you left off and move on. And so you can use this with anything, but for us, it's this rule that we're using for the first 21 days, which is the no dishes in the sink policy. And it has been pretty great so far. The fourth kind of implementation, and it actually is, again, morning routine that we're doing to build this habit is, and I actually had to just go check it because I forgot. I always remember it every morning, but I forgot it right now. And we actually keep Post-it notes on our refrigerator to remind us what our 4 things are. So that's also really good, is just to keep things front and center and top of mind. But anyway, the 4th thing is to never hit snooze. So we are no longer snoozing on our alarm clocks. Now we're trying to just get rid of that habit of sleeping in and constantly promising ourselves 9 more minutes. And getting out of that habit and just waking up when we said we were going to wake up. And it's almost implementing this bigger term, which is do what you say you will do. Just follow through, get it done. So those are the 4 things. That all falls under the first kind of umbrella of things of what I'm doing to get my life back on track this fall, which is simplifying the morning routine and building and implementing 21 days of new habits. So meditate for 5 to 10 minutes in the morning, make the bed, never leave dishes in the sink, and do not hit snooze. All right, so moving on from that, I wanted to share the second thing that I am doing to get my life back on track, and that is a financial thing, and it's to review my finances, both big picture and smaller tasks. So I think it's really important, no matter what, every single quarter to review your big picture finances. Review your net worth. See where your investments stand. Look at what you could be doing maybe better in your retirement account. Or are you contributing enough? It's funny, but things change so frequently in our lives, especially nowadays, because so many things with our finances are digitized, that we tend to lose that tangibility of it all. So if you just remember, okay, every quarter I'm going to review my finances, the big picture ones, then that's going to be really helpful for you to make sure that you are going to continue to have a bright and shiny financial future. There's a lot of those big picture things that you want to just keep your finger on the pulse, but it's not necessarily necessary to do it every week or even every month. Every quarter tends to be a good rhythm. Now, the other thing I'm doing is reviewing my small tasks, and I always review my small tasks. I actually like to check my personal capital account once a week, sometimes once a month if I'm really busy, but usually it's super easy because I can just pull up the app and check where all the balances are in my account. So Personal Capital is a financial aggregator. I'll actually leave my affiliate link in the show notes and in the description of this episode if you're on the podcast player. But it is a financial aggregator that isn't so much like Mint. They do have a budget plan, but they don't email you and tell you how you've just totally blown your budget this week, which was the biggest thing that bothered me about using Mint. But they do pull together all of your finances and give you a good picture of first where your net worth lies, but also I can go in there and I can check, okay, how are my bank account balances doing, especially my fixed and discretionary spending account, which is where a lot of my money flows in and out of. Where are my credit cards? Because I do use credit cards, and then I use that discretionary bank account to pay for my credit cards. And I need to make sure that my credit card balances aren't getting too high if I'm not currently very specifically budgeting, which I'm going to talk about very soon. And so that gives me an idea of where my finances are each week or each month. And those are those small tasks that I can kind of just like keep my eye on the ball. I'm running out of analogies or idioms or whatever those are called, but you get the picture. Reviewing my finances, both big picture, but also looking at some of those small tasks is really important. And the other small task that I am doing, and I think everyone should do this if you are really struggling with managing your money, or you're even just trying to like revisit how your money is flowing, is to get on a budget and start budgeting regularly. So I've talked in podcasts, probably in like a handful of the past few podcasts, about how I don't actually budget regularly. And what I mean by that is I could go a full quarter of budgeting, a quarter of the year, so 3 months, budgeting really strictly and looking at my daily number and making sure that I'm hitting my goals at the end of the month and so on and so forth. And then once I feel like I get in a good rhythm, my spending is in check, I know kind of how the money is flowing through my system, I'll tend to wean off of my budget, because I just think that life is like that, you know? Sometimes you need to do things more seriously, and then eventually you build up that muscle memory that you can kind of take your foot off the gas and start to live life just how you are. But it's always important to know, okay, there might be a point where you need to get back on this budget, and that's where I'm at today. So especially if you are trying to like do a little life reset from maybe the summer where your spending got a little out of control, or you took one too many vacations or whatever it is, and you're just trying to make sure that your budget is in check, then this is a perfect time to get back on a budget and just review where you're at. Make sure that all of your financial situations haven't changed drastically. And that's another reason why, I'll go off of a budget, but then I'll get back on, because my income will probably change. My expenses will probably change. And getting back to why I'm getting back on a budget is because, yes, I had a pretty crazy summer. I did a lot of travel, but I've also changed my lifestyle significantly. So back in April, when I wasn't budgeting, from April until now, I was living in Chicago, and then I made the move to Italy. And so now a lot of my expenses have significantly changed, and I haven't really accounted for that. I just knew that I was paying a lot less in fixed living expenses than I was in Chicago. So I figured like, okay, I don't really need to budget. But now I'm kind of getting to the point where I'm like, I'm seeing a huge surplus in my bank account, which is like, oh, champagne problems. But it's really important that if you are seeing a surplus in your bank account, you make sure that your money is optimized properly. And so I'm seeing a lot of money in my bank account starting to build up because, like I said, my costs are significantly lower. I mean, the cost of living in Italy is pretty significantly lower than it is in Chicago, and it doesn't hurt that I live with my boyfriend. He actually pays for rent because he's been paying for rent in this apartment for the past 7 years, and we haven't moved yet. So once we do move, I'll be responsible for that. But we figured, right now there's no use in me needing to contribute to that aspect. So I contribute in other ways, and it's just also become much more cheap for me. I have to go to school every day, so that's my contribution. But from a financial standpoint, I'm seeing this surplus, and you might be seeing a surplus because things have changed for you, or you've just always been seeing a surplus, and you're not realizing that, oh, there's some places that I could put this money, because if you're using the anti-budget, which is what I'm going to be starting to use again for this kind of back on track moment, then you're going to have a huge daily number that it's not really even reasonable to use, because if it's so big, then A, you're either going to just spend way more than you really need to, and B, you're not going to be prioritizing certain savings goals that you could otherwise be prioritizing. So I always say it's good to have your daily number so that it's a little bit uncomfortable. If you're working with a really low daily number, that's a different story. But if you have a pretty high daily number, and for a lot of us, like for me, if I have a daily number over $25 a day, then I'm thinking, that's pretty comfortable for me if it's over that. If I can get it between 25 and 28, then I feel a little bit better on where I stand. Now, other people live in different places. It's going to be interesting for me to kind of figure this out first with living in Italy, but also converting it to euro. But I'm saying that it's important to know where your money is going. And if you do have a surplus, it's important to know, okay, where can I put this? And if you don't, this is just another reason to revisit your budget. If you're using the anti-budget, recalculate the anti-budget and figure out what your daily number should be right now, because things might have changed over the past even month or 2 months. And so starting in October, it could be a good time for a refresh. So let's start pulling all this financial information together to do a nice, good, big picture review, but also figuring out what are the small tasks I can be doing regularly to make sure that I'm hitting my financial goals throughout the rest of this fall. So I hope that made sense. I know I kind of rambled, but I just wanted to share what I was going to be doing. And by the way, if you haven't heard of the anti-budget or you've never figured out how to do it, then you can join. I have a free training that I run, and it gives you the anti-budget calculator. It also gives you a tracker and ways that you can track your daily number, which is the amount of money you get to spend guilt-free. You'll figure out what that all means if you go through the training. So just go to wanderwealthy.com/anti-budget, and you'll be able to sign up for the training and get all of that information there. So I would love to see you in there. And of course, you can always send me a message or get into the Wander Wealthy or Wealthy Wanderers Facebook group. And all of these links, again, will be in the description box of this podcast as well as the show notes. Okay, moving on. The third thing, we're almost there. The third thing that I am starting to do for getting my life on track this fall is to just almost take the pressure off of trying to do it all. Earlier this year, I went through an online course called Design Your Dream Life. It's by a really good friend of mine, Natalie Bacon, and it kind of goes through all these different things: productivity, planning, goal setting, habits. And I really love Natalie's approach and the way that she explains things when you're trying to figure out like, I feel so much pressure, or I feel like I need to do it all, or I have these big goals and I don't know how to achieve them. She really walks you through how to design your dream life. She talks a lot about mindset, and I think that's really important if you listen to the last episode, and almost fixing some of the narrative that I talked about in the last episode, you can do by going through this course. So the one thing that she talks about is how there's no such thing as balance, like true balance. People are always talking about work-life balance and, 50-50. And although I think that, yes, you can be really dedicated to your job, but also be really dedicated to your family, something's got to give somewhere if you want to be 100% committed to a goal. So it's really kind of a hard pill to swallow. But I've fought this resistance for so long because I thought that, oh my gosh, I need to be physically fit. I need to be super healthy by making my own food. I need to build my own business. I need to learn Italian. I need to be a great girlfriend. I need to be a great daughter. I need to be a great friend. I need to make more friends. And there's all these things I want to do, but I also feel pressured to do that eventually I get so overwhelmed and overworked and tired and burnt out that is why, I'm not doing it. I'm not able to achieve all of these goals that I have set out for myself because I'm trying to do them all at the same time. And so by accepting the fact that, okay, there is no such thing as balance, I might be able to do 90% here and 10% there. And that's okay. Like, as long as most of my effort, and I recognize that most of my effort is fully focused to this one place, and then I kind of dabble with these other things, that's really helped me kind of go, okay, that's where my life is at right now. Because for me, I've been struggling with running my own business, but also wanting to travel, especially with the opportunity to live in Italy, travel, see friends, see family, spend time with my boyfriend now that I'm here. But I also, want to stay fit and eat healthy. And so I had to really figure out, okay, where are my priorities right now? And for me, that kind of came down to this opportunity that I have right now of living in Italy for a year, learning Italian, being able to travel super easily, and also having a bunch of people try to come visit me going to visit them, that is the priority. So I've scaled back on my workouts, which if you know me personally is very hard for me. I've always been the type of person who makes going to the gym a top priority, but I had to scale back on that because I was going a little bit crazy. I had to scale back on worrying so much about making all these really great nutritious meals because I was going a little bit crazy. And then my work has taken a slight hit. I'm still trying to continue to update you guys, publish a podcast, and this is a prime example. Something dropped because I had other priorities of travel that got in the way of a podcast recording, but I'm sitting down here still making it happen, but it's not necessarily in the way that I really had planned on doing and hitting my big goals with it, because my priority right now isn't necessarily towards hitting all of my goals with work, because I have these other goals of a personal life, traveling, things that I probably will never get to do in the future. So I'm still, I still have my clients. I still have the people who are going through the money program. I'm still having the regular podcasts, the brands that I'm working with, the videos, all of that is still happening, but it's kind of, I guess I'm not going above and beyond for creating additional courses right now because I have these other things in the way. Not necessarily in the way. I guess that I have prioritized, and it was really hard for me to wrap my mind around that and accept that, because the way that I was looking at it initially was, I'm failing. What am I going to do? I'm failing. This is so hard. Why is this so hard? And I remember actually talking to Natalie about this, and we were talking because we are good friends, but I also got to take her course, and we talked about, she shared with me how life is lived in seasons, and right now your season is focused on this wonderful opportunity to be able to travel and see friends and see family and see new places, and that is your season that you're living in, and that's where your focus is right now. But this season will end, and then you'll move on from that. And I've been sharing this over and over again with a lot of my one-on-one clients, how I know it can be really hard to feel like you don't get to live the life that you dreamed of right now because your focus is so much on paying off this debt or budgeting so that you can have your dream wedding in the future. But just think of this as a season. We're just in a season. You're almost there, but you need to be okay with scaling back and living this particular way until you get to live that next way, which could be next season or 2 or 3 seasons from now. But you have to be willing to accept that right now my life is this season, and I might not get to go to all of those rooftop drinks with friends this summer or last summer or next summer, because that season of my life is going to be so committed to this big goal that is a bigger priority than my, rooftop drinks. That's the lesson that I really got to get out of Natalie's Design Your Dream Life Academy. And if you guys want to check that out, you definitely should. It's so good. The next tip I'm actually sharing is also from that, but you can go to, I have an affiliate link. It's at no additional cost to you, but Natalie, she gives me a kickback for referring people to her course. And you can just check it out at wanderwealthy.com/dreamlife. No spaces or dashes, just wanderwealthy.com/dreamlife. Again, I'll link it below. This is an episode full of great links that you can get. If 1 or 2 of these things you want to pick up, you can check them out and see how you like it. Hopefully they're helpful tools. Okay, the fourth thing, again, this is what I got from the Design Your Dream Life Academy, is something that I'm going to start implementing come October, when my season of travel and family and relationships is kind of coming to an end. I get to change my focus and rebalance my focus to being more work-related, is to plan out my results. So Natalie talks about this in her planning module as well as her goal setting module, which talks about, you have your goals. She sets goals in 1-year increments. I actually set goal in 90-day increments. In the money program, I talk about setting 90-day goals because our brain really can't see past 90 days. So it's easy to plan and think about, okay, what am I going to accomplish in 90 days? But beyond that, it can be really difficult. Of course, you can have a 1-year goal, you can have 2 to 4 year goals, but the goal that you're really going after and committed to is 90 days out. So it might be like a fraction of your 1-year goal, if you will, or it might be that next milestone that you need to get to in order to get to your 1-year goal or 3-year goal or whatever. But that 90 days is that one milestone. Anyway, I do 90-day goals and then 2-week sprints. Natalie actually talks about doing almost 2-week sprints, sort of. She talks about putting actions into your calendar and planning out, what you're going to do, but plan it based on the result. She shares how if you want to start a blog, or for me, if I'm trying to get a brand deal, let's say, then instead of saying like, oh, I want to get a brand deal within 90 days, I really back into it going, okay, what do I need to do by the end of 90 days, like what needs to happen in that last month, and then back into the second month, and then back into the first month. And then from there go, okay, but what can I do over the next 2 weeks? What all the different actions I can do that are results oriented in order to get the brand deal. So brand deal is very vague. I need to get more specific on exactly what type of brand deal, what type of videos I want to create, how much that's going to be. But then in order to get to that, I need to figure out, okay, it's not just send out emails. I need to be very specific about, I'm going to send out 3 pitches at this time during this day. Maybe it's on Monday from 7 in the morning to 8 in the morning. I'm emailing 3 different companies a pitch in order to, get a brand deal. So it's very specific action steps. And it's just also looking at what is the result I want to get instead of, oh, I need to do this like action. And that really helps me really plan out and get very specific and make sure that I'm actually going to get the stuff done. Because if we just put very vague action items on our to-do list, if you're looking out at your week or your next 2 weeks, if they're very vague and not totally like blocking your calendar, then you can really fall flat on that. Those things can fall off because you go, oh, well, I know I'm supposed to do that, but I don't really know what concretely I need to get done. So that's not really holding me accountable. But if you see, I need to write 3 blog posts on Friday morning between the hours of 8 a.m. and 10 a.m., that's going to go, okay, now I gotta get this done. It's like setting those deadlines and being very specific with what you're going to deliver at that time. All right, you guys, it's getting to a little long, so I'm going to cut it short here because we're at the end of the list and I don't need to ramble anymore, but I hope that this is helpful for you. This is how I'm going to get my life back on track this fall, really power me up with more motivation and discipline and determination as I go into the fall semester, if we're talking in school terms, but I'm really excited to implement these things to just get my life back on track and feel empowered, feel motivated. So if you want to join me, I'd love to hear from you. You can come to the Wealthy Wanderers private Facebook community. Let's start a little accountability thread because I think that always helps. So all the links to get into the group, to check out Natalie's course, to check out all the other things I talked about today, you can get in the description of the podcast episode if you're listening in a podcast player, or you can go to the show notes at wanderwealthypodcast.com/podcast/episode 72. Let's get our ish together. I'm super excited. All right, until next time, I hope you wander wealthy.